Hey, what's up guys, it's Renaldo here. So this video is going to focus on a question that I'm hearing more and more, and it's obviously escalated over the last 15 years. And that question is, why do we not do a tax revolt in this country? Now, if you are 1 or 2 or 10 people, that is clearly not going to work. Or even if you're a community or a suburb of residents that want to protest against your municipality and withhold your rates and taxes, the government has structured it in a way that makes it illegal, and the municipality will just cut your water or your electricity off. And if you refuse to pay your taxes, then SARS will come after you. So ultimately, the government has structured it in such a way that makes it nearly impossible for citizens of this country to take matters into their own hands, to protest against the government with their own hard-earned money. And there is culprits here that should be held accountable and should be blamed because they do have the power, but they choose to allow the government to continue with what it's continuing, which is corruption, maladministration, and wasteful expenditure. Now, before I tell you who it is, please be sure to subscribe to this channel, and also please be sure to smash that like button and share this video. All of those things are free. It won't cost you anything, so it'll be greatly appreciated. All right, so the culprits in this country are companies that allow pay as you earn, to be deducted from their employees, and the fact that they just happily take that money that their employees work for and transferring it over to SARS. It is a very clear-cut case of companies rather looking the other way than actually taking a firm stance to what is happening in this country. Because I think it's very clear for everybody, whether you are the most intelligent person or the dumbest person in this country, to see that the government is stealing so much money that it's almost making this country impossible to govern, because of the fact that 200 billion rand annually is lost either to corruption, maladministration, or wasteful expenditure. Over the last 15 years, we have had to bail out state-owned enterprises to the tune of 520 billion rand, so R500 billion over the last 15 years that we as taxpayers had to pay to bail out failing companies like the Post Office, like SAA, like Eskom, like Transnet, and the list goes on and on. You get what I'm saying. And ultimately, it is these companies, the ones that actually have a way to let the government listen to them, that is refusing to take action. I mean, imagine for 1 second, if all of the JSE top 40 companies in this country decided for 1 or 2 months to withhold their payee tax from handing it over to government by letting them sign a memorandum of some sorts to say that we are going to do this, this, and this, and if you don't do this, this, and this, then we're not going to pay over the money. Now, of course, for an individual or for a community, it's very difficult because they'll just take you to court, and because they use taxpayers' money to fund their court cases, they will ultimately outspend you. However, when it comes to these powerful conglomerates and companies, they have got all the money in the world. They can go to court and spend 5, 6, or 10 years in court fighting this matter. But unfortunately, it seems that we don't have companies in this country that actually want to put the people of this country first. The companies here, first and foremost, care about their bottom line. They care about their profits, and that's fine. I get it. As a capitalist, I understand it. But surely at some point in time, you have to also stand for what is right. I mean, that is what happened in the apartheid era, where a lot of companies withdrew from this country. But yet in South Africa, in 2026, with 142 race-based laws, they don't do anything. Which is kind of ironic, you know, like during apartheid, you left because of race-based policies, and now you double down on race-based policies. You actually implement government's racist policies, and then the fact that you know that 200 billion rand is stolen annually by government through maladministration, corruption, and wasteful expenditure, you just keep quiet when you have all the power to do this. And if you don't believe me, have a look at these companies. So this is Africa's largest employers of labor. So this is not necessarily just South Africans that are being employed, but most of these companies only actually trade in South Africa. So you can kind of see where it gets to. So ShopRite employs 170,000 people. You've got Bidvest that employs 134,000. Sibanye, Stillwater. You've got First Rand, Standard Bank, Pepkor, ABSA. You've got Woolworths, you've got Mr. Price Group, you've got Pick n Pay, Sasol, Sanlam, Clicks, Nedbank, MTN, Dis-Chem, you've got Old Mutual, Truworths. You see the point that I'm making here, and if you just look at the numbers, I know that not every single one of them is South African, but you get a picture here. Just by these companies alone, it's at least 1 or 2 million South Africans that are employed by these companies. Now, I'm sure that most of you have seen this graphic because this is what inspired me to make this video. And this is data that has been confirmed by AfriCap. It's AfriCap research, and I did check if it was legit, and I was told yes, it is. So just to put it into perspective for you, we've got companies in this country that is happy with race-based legislation, with a government that tells them how many black people, white people, colored people, and Indian people, males and females they have to employ. These strict guidelines that a lot of the overseas companies fled because they didn't want to participate in it. And I'm not just blaming South African companies, by the way. This applies to whatever companies work in South Africa, whether it's American companies, UK companies, Australian companies, whatever. The point that I'm making is that we've got 142 race-based laws in this country. We've got a government that forces triple BEE on companies. And we have a government that steals 200 billion rand every single year from the poorest of the poor, from the citizens of this country, from businesses. And yet they will happily just oblige. At what point do we, as consumers or employees of these companies, give them an ultimatum and say, well, we don't have the power, but you definitely have? Like I said, imagine if these companies for 2 months decide we are not going to transfer the 2 million employees as payee that we have, pay as you earn, until you adhere, commit, or sign this document that says that if you don't, you will be penalized. Imagine the country will come to a standstill if they choose to do it. But yet these companies are willing to just go, you know what, let's turn a blind eye on the race-based legislation, on the government overstepping into our business, and then, of course, the corruption, maladministration, and wasteful expenditure. So I think that for the longest period of time, we have always just blamed the government because ultimately it's the government's fault, but we should also blame the enablers, the ones that allow this to happen. Because if you as an individual decide that you're not going to pay tax and SARS finds out about it, you're going to go to jail. Or if a suburb does it, your electricity and water is just going to get cut off. But if you are a JSE listed company with billions of rands or hundreds of millions of rands, and you and other companies come together and say, you know what, we are really concerned with the state of this country and the money that is lost to corruption, and we are taking this stance legally, and all of us will unite in a court case if the government decides to take us to court, then I can guarantee you that there will be change. I mean, ultimately, it's all about money in this country, and if the government doesn't get the tax money that they need in order for social grants, in order to provide the little services that they do, if they don't get that money, then this country comes to a standstill. So ultimately, the power lies with the employers. But the employers in this country aren't fighting for the citizens, aren't fighting for the employees. They are protecting and defending the government. And that is a massive problem. And that is something that we as South Africans need to adjust our minds to. We need to understand that, yes, the government is the number one problem, but not speaking up, not speaking out, not condemning it, and not standing up for the citizens of this country and your own employees, that is even a bigger problem. So just to conclude this video, I truly believe that if one of the CEOs or a top senior manager is watching this video, I mean, how can you allow this to happen? How can you allow the government of this country to steal from the poorest of the poor and the citizens of this country, and even from you and your business? Because by not having the infrastructure maintained and doing the things that you are supposed to do as the government, that affects your bottom line too as a company. I mean, tomorrow Eskom can come back and say, oh, we've got stage 5 to stage 7 load shedding. And then the companies will complain about it, but ultimately you are the ones that enabled it. You are the enablers of this. You can put a stop to this, but you choose not to do it. Shame on you. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. Smash the like button, share this video far and wide. Don't forget to subscribe. It's absolutely free. It won't cost you anything. However, if you'd like to contribute financially, you can do so by giving a super thanks. You can hit the dollar sign below, or you can become a member to this channel by clicking the join button below, and that'll be greatly appreciated. And that's all I got to say. Till later. Cheers and peace out.
You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre.